I am Raziel.
What's up, guys? Raziel here, and I've got another video for you today. It's completely unscripted, off the cuff, so I've been doing this for a little while, looking over some skills and everything for the Dark Knight, and we definitely need help. Dark Knight definitely needs help. I'm going to go over the changes that I think would bring it to the right spot, and what I think would help some, and provide different options for a couple of things that Square could do. Now, keep in mind, I do know that changes are coming for all jobs, most likely, in the next 2 to 4 weeks. So I may be prematurely blowing my opinion all over your face, but these are what I think needs to happen. I mean, I've been playing Dark Knight since Heaven's Word, and Heaven's Word, they were in a pretty good spot, but pretty much all of Stormblood, they were the worst tank in the game. I still mained it, and right now, they're the worst tank in the game still. Though, I don't think they're in as bad a spot. I like how the job plays better than I did in Stormblood. It feels better to play. It's more fun. But, we're still in a pretty bad spot. Now, I'm going to preface this with, again, there's probably changes. There are changes coming around. But these are the changes that I think we need that, in my opinion, would help bring the class up. It doesn't need a whole new rework like it did throughout most of Stormblood. The job just needed a complete rework. Yoshi P said it himself, he knew it needed a rework. In Shadowbringers, we got the rework, but there are still some things that need to be done. As far as tank hierarchy, now I know all tanks need some changes. I fully expect Paladin to receive some nerfs. It's possible Gunbreaker might, just on their DPS side, but I don't think very much is going to change on Gunbreaker. Warrior, I think, needs a little bit of help because of how clunky, Storm's path is. And stuff like, and their potencies are a bit low, but to be fair, Warrior scales with gear better than any other tank in the game. They always have, because of inner release and how it works. But this video isn't about those, so don't say, I'm just prefacing this, don't think I don't know that other tanks need some changes too, and I'm only focusing on Dark Knight. Keep in mind, Dark Knight is what I made. I've leveled Paladin now to 80. I have Dark Knight obviously at 80. It's what I did first. I've almost got Gunbreaker to 80 now. And then after that will be Warrior, but I have looked over Warrior's kit. So now you kind of know where I'm coming from when I'm talking about these. Let me make sure, okay, that these changes are what I feel needs to happen. So I'm just going to go through the abilities here, as you can see my mouse here on the screen, and what I think needs to happen. And there's some stuff that I'd be okay with not changing, but there are a few things that are just glaring problems. So pardon me, my hair's all disheveled and everything. I just got back from work and worked out, so I need a shower, but fuck that. I wanted to talk about this before I stopped thinking about it. So as we know, Hard Slash is, I think, fine. Siphon Strike and its MP return is fine. I'm just going to go left to right on my hotbars, okay? Soul Eater. I think its combo potency needs to go back up to what it was in Stormblood. It needs to be raised. 400 is too low, and I think the heal is too low. Because keep in mind, and I'm going to give some background here, the reason why I feel it's too low, right now Dark Knight has the worst self-sustain in terms of self-healing in the game. The worst self-healing in the game by a large margin. We have, the Gunbreaker that can use Aurora to give a heal over time, on top of the fact that they only have to get 2 buttons in their combo, in their main DPS combo, in order to receive some kind of mitigation, which translates to less healing needed. For Dark Knight, there's only 2 abilities that heal us that we can do ourselves. One is Abyssal Drain, which I'll get to in a minute, and the other is Soul Eater. Now, I think the heal on Soul Eater is too weak. I think the potency should be buffed from 300 to maybe like 400 or 500. And then the combo potency needs to go back to its Stormblood levels or close to. So I would say, if I remember right, in Stormblood it was 650. I think it should go back up to 650 or at least 600. But even any buff and potency here, I think, would help a lot with the fact that we're the Dark Knight's also the lowest damage tank in the game. Moving on. So, Edge of Shadow, I think is fine. I think it's fine, but also its potency shows how bad the potency is of Soul Eater, because Soul Eater is a heal, but it's also, it takes 3 buttons to get to it, and it's on the the GCD, while Edge of Shadow is off the GCD, and Edge of Shadow has 100 more potency than Soul Eater does. And I think Edge of Shadow is fine. How it is, how it works, is completely fine. I think Soul Eater needs to be buffed, but Edge of Shadow is fine. Okay, Living Shadow. Living Shadow is just essentially a dot that twice during its rotation will hit all the targets around it, but it's essentially just a small DPS increase. I think it's a cool aesthetic. I get what they were going for. It's really about its class fantasy, and I like it. I enjoy it. It's a cool ability, cool looking ability, but it's not interactive enough. And I understand that making Living Shadow be interactive and do something way more or way different than what it does now is under the realm of a rework, and I don't think we're going to get one. I don't think we really need one. So I'm not going to suggest things that would require an entire rework of the class. However, I think Living Shadow should be changed from costing blood gauge to costing MP. And it'll make more sense when I get here later on. But it's a damage ability that the problem with Living Shadow costing blood gauge is the fact that you have to first get 50 blood gauge right out of the pull to get it up. And then once you use the ability, it has like a 3 or 4 second animation of the ability spawning before it even does an attack. Thus, dropping your burst window out of Trick Attack, out of other burst windows, other buffs, are about over by the time you even get yours out. If this costs MP and you could pop it right at the start, the plunge, the start of a fight, I think it would be much, much better for Living Shadow to cost MP instead of blood gauge. Moving on, Blood Spiller. And pardon me, I confused 2 abilities here, so let me go back. Blood Spiller was the ability I think got nerfed. I think, yeah, Soul Eater should only go up to maybe get a 50 potency increase on its damage, so 450. For some reason I was thinking of Blood Spiller when I was looking at Soul Eater. My apologies. But the Cure potency definitely needs to go up by 200 points. I've said enough about Soul Eater at this point. Okay. Blood Spiller I think needs a, its stormblood level potency back up to 650. 650 is where Blood Spiller was, because it's on the global cooldown. You have to use blood gauge. It's your single target dump, so I think it needs to be stronger. It's not hitting hard enough right now. And Dark Knight doesn't scale as well as the other tanks, especially Warrior with gear. So Blood Spiller potency needs to be increased. Okay, sure, I'm not going to talk about that. Quietus. I think Quietus could get a potency increase too, just slight, maybe 20 or 30 points more. Maybe make it, 230, 240. To make it a little more effective on multi-target AoE pulls. Because we know right now Paladin is AoE king and DPS king for tanks by a large margin, especially on big giant pulls, because of the synergy and how their class flows now and the abilities they got. It's night and day difference when I was playing my Paladin doing AoE pulls. Even when I was under-geared in a dungeon, it was ridiculous compared to Dark Knight. Just falls way behind there. Okay. Salted Earth. Now this one, Salted Earth really rubs me the wrong way. Salted Earth makes me salty. Here's why. Okay, it's on a 90-second recast cooldown. It's got a 60 potency. But you have to place Salted Earth. So you have to game it. You have to actually use the ability and pick a spot. Now, if an enemy moves out of the ability, they're no longer taking damage. You really, in the 4-man dungeons, if you're doing massive, big pulls, you're only going to be able to use Salted Earth every other pull sometimes, or maybe once a pull. Let's say you get to use it once every pull, and that's being generous. So you're doing 60 potency for 15 seconds on all the targets that stay in that bubble. Okay? Compare that to Circle of Scorn on a Paladin, which has a 25-second recast time. On my Paladin, every big AoE pull, I could use it 3 or 4 times, sometimes 5 times on a pack. And yeah, its potency is quite a bit lower, but the amount of damage you get out is guaranteed to be more than Salted Earth, and you don't have to target any of the other big AoEs that the other tanks have, like, you know, Circle of Scorn, the Gunbreakers, I forget what it's called, but it's on a shorter cooldown, and it's if the enemy's near you, they get hit, and even if they move around on the battlefield, they keep the dot on them. The dot's on them and not on the ground. With Salted Earth, the cooldown's too fucking long, and the duration, you know, the duration's fine. The potency is okay. You know, it's okay-ish because it's a little higher than some of the others, except for Gunbreakers is quite high. But Salted Earth, in my opinion, needs to have its cooldown dramatically cut down. I would say even a minute is too long. I would say it needs like 45 seconds, 50-second cooldown to make it competitive with the other AoEs. Because remember, this is an ability that the target has to stay in the area of effect for it to do anything. While, let's say, on a boss fight, the boss is about to go into a transition, you know, where they're not targetable anymore. If right before the transition you thought pop your dot on them as any other tank or job, that dot stays on them while they're gone, continually doing damage. Let's say you barely set this down, they take a tick or two of it and leave, it's no longer doing damage. This needs to change. Salted Earth's cooldown needs to be dramatically reduced to make it competitive, in my opinion. And if they want to keep it, if Square wants it to stay this 90-second, I would say its potency needs to be doubled, if not tripled, if expense is that much, or maybe make it to where it's not targeted anymore. I personally like that it's a targeted AoE. It's unique that way, but its cooldown, my fix for it would be its cooldown really, really drastically needs to reduce, and maybe even its radius increase a little bit. You know, maybe go from 5 yards to 10, 5 yards to 7, something. Okay. Reprisal, don't need to talk about it. Carbon Spit's fine. It's perfectly fine. I have no problems with that. Okay. Dark Mind. Dark Mind is... it's shit. It's kind of a shitty cooldown, and a lot of people say, hey, well, Dark Knight is the anti-magic tank, so they have Dark Mind. Actually, they're not. If you look at all the other tanks, the only tank that has less personal CDs is Paladin. Has one less, but they also get a shitload of utility that the other jobs don't have, like cover and intervene. But Dark Mind is just a shitty cooldown. It's a shitty cooldown, and this is why, okay? Let's look at, like, for example, Paladin. I mean, all the tanks get Rampart, okay? All the tanks get Rampart. All the tanks have another big ability, like, for example, Sentinel, Shadow Wall here. I don't remember the name of the Gunbreaker one, but they also have a 30% damage reduction. The point being, all the tanks' other personal cooldowns that prevent damage, mitigate both magical and physical damage. Shadow Wall does magical and physical. Rampart, magical and physical. Blackest Night, magical and physical. Dark Mind, only magical. So they have the same number of cooldowns. Dark Knight has the same number of personal cooldowns as Warrior and Gunbreaker, but one of our cooldowns is just shittier. That doesn't make any sense. How I would fix this, I think one of two ways could fix Dark Mind. Keep it at 20% mitigation, and either make it so that 20% also applies to physical, or if Square Enix really wants to stick to their Dark Knight has this cooldown that's really good for magic damage, but that's it, okay, fine. That's the class fantasy you want to go for, great. It needs to be buffed to like 50%. It needs to be way strong against magic if it only protects you against magic, because it's useless in anything that hits you that's physical. And there's a lot of physical damage, especially in big pulls. There's a lot of tank busters that are physical, straight punches. So Dark Mind, if it's going to be magic only, needs to go up to like 50% reduction of magic damage. Or if they don't want to make a cooldown that strong against magic, then it needs to be 20% against physical and magical damage. Okay. Interject, skip. Unmend is fine. Unmend is fine. Dark Missionary is fine. I would think, Gunbreaker has this exact ability, like verbatim. The only difference is called something else. I think it would be cool. It wouldn't hurt to make the magic damage reduced instead of 10% to maybe like 15. Make it a little more potent, a little more useful instead of just taking a tiny fraction. Take a little bit more, 15% I think would be fair. No higher than that though. But overall, if they don't change Dark Missionary at all, I'm fine with it. It would also be nice if Dark Missionary did physical and magical damage, but again, whatever. Rampart, Shadow Wall's fine. No problems with Shadow Wall. Stalwart Soul is fine. I think how it works is great. No problems there. Blackest Night. Okay, let's open up a can of worms here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's open up a fucking can of worms. Because the Blackest Night is arguably one of the best single tank cooldowns in the game. But it's got a major issue. A major issue that no other tank faces with a personal cooldown. Its cost. Blackest Night should be free. It should cost no mana, which ties into take Blackest Night's mana cost away and apply it to Living Shadow. But Blackest Night is for what you get, it's high risk and very little reward. Because people say, well, yeah, if your Blackest Night shield breaks, you get the mana you spent on it back. Okay, but what if it doesn't break? You don't get it back. No other tank has to take an immediate and possible definite DPS loss for using a survivability cooldown on themselves or someone else. No one else is gonna lose that. I mean, there are trade-offs on some other tank cooldowns that you can cast on somebody else, as in, okay, now I no longer have that ability to cast on myself. Okay, that's good gameplay. That's a good, that requires skill to determine, okay, this player on my raid, needs this cooldown more than me right now, so I'm gonna throw it on them. However, it doesn't cost them damage. On the Dark Knight, Blackest Night costs us both. It costs us damage, and it costs us our own survivability. That's too high. The cost of Blackest Night is too high, and the reward is too low. So, here's what I would do. I think the best option, the absolute best option, would be to just remove its MP cost. Leave everything else the same how it is, but it should be free. If Square absolutely refuses to do that, then the reward for having the shield break needs to be doubled. Instead of giving you back 3k mana that you spent on it, it gives, it's not even giving you back the mana, it's just giving you a free Edge of Shadow. That's what needs to happen. The cost needs to be removed. Otherwise, they need to make the reward even higher, like it gives you a free Edge of Shadow and 3000 MP. And I think that reward's too high. I don't think that's fair. So, Blackest Night should be free, no cost. You use it. If you didn't break the shield, no loss. It's just, okay, at worst, you don't have the cooldown on yourself if you use the shield on somebody else, much like all the other tanks cooldowns you can throw on somebody else. But if it does break, you're rewarded. Oh, free DPS. Okay, Blackest Night should have no cost. That mana cost should be on Living Shadow, in my opinion. Okay, Unleash is fine. I have no problem with Unleash. It's fine. Okay. I'm going here. Living Dead. Living Dead is the sore thumb that's been sticking out of the Dark Knight for so fucking long now. It's gangrenous, it smells like almonds, and we're probably going to have to amputate the entire goddamn limb because this cooldown is shit. Living Dead is the worst tank community in the game, and it has been since its inception. This cooldown's effect literally only exists for the sake of being different. But it's terrible. It's a worse version of Home Gang and Super Bolide that Gunbreaker have. And none of those three cooldowns, Home Gang, Super Bolide, or Living Dead, even compare to Hallowed Ground that Paladin has. Paladin has the best immunity in the whole game. But Living Dead right now, I don't even consider it a tank cooldown. It's a healer cooldown. This cooldown is 120,000 fucking % reliant on how good your healers are and how much they're paying attention. And in a kind of a way, how the balance is amongst healers. Like right now, I feel more comfortable using Living Dead if I have a white mage in the party because of Benediction. If I have an Astrologian or a Scholar, man, that confidence starts to go down. Me wanting to use that. Because I can't even count how many times, even just this expansion, I've died from not getting healed in time. It's completely dumb that we have so little control over our own survivability with this. So how would I fix it? Okay, I don't think we should make it exactly the same as Super Bolide and Home Gang if Square really wants to keep some different identity for Dark Knights. Being healed for 100%, I see two different options, the first one being better. The first one is the healers should only have to heal you to 50% of your max HP total. Because keep in mind, when you use Living Dead, you're still taking hits. So the healer's trying to get you to full, trying to get you to full. Oh, it's got to reach that full point. And you keep getting hit by things and it keeps going down, you die. Okay? Living Dead should be 50% of your total HP. And it doesn't actually have to reach 50%. So as an example, let's say your max HP is 100k. It shouldn't have to go, okay, the number on the screen said 50,000, you're okay. No, it should be as long as you receive your half of your full health in healing in that time frame. It should remove the debuff. And then I would even add the caveat that if you're not healed in time, you don't die. You just get the res sickness debuff. That would be better, because then you have to go through the trouble of, okay, got to get the tank up, you died, you know. Even then, like, but I really think Living Dead should be half your health, and then it would still be the worst tank cooldown in the game for invulns, but it would be tolerable. The way it is right now is fucking garbage, and it's been fucking garbage since it was made, and it's kind of frustrating. Living Dead needs to change. It's bad design. It just doesn't work. A lot of people compare it, and I hate bringing up World of Warcraft in this, but to Death Knight's Purgatory. But the difference is the reason why it works in World of Warcraft and doesn't work here is because in World of Warcraft, back when I played anyway, it's been a while, Blood Death Knight was the only class that had an ability like that at all, an invuln essentially, right? And even then, it wasn't an ability you hit or timed; it just happened. It was passive. In this game, all the tanks have an invuln, and ours on Dark Knight is god-awful. It doesn't even compare to the other three on any level. So Living Dead needs some major changes. And Yoshi P did say in an interview that he's looking into it, but it's been bad since Heavensward. It was bad all of Stormblood, despite everybody crying about it, myself included, and I have a feeling it's going to be fucking bad in this expansion too. So, but I really hope not. I really hope Square does something. Plunge is great. Plunge works fine. I love that there's 2 charges of it now. The only thing I would tweak, because I still think it needs its animation lock brought back just a tiny bit, because when you compare it to like Gunbreaker's jump, Gunbreaker's has like no animation lock, and Dark Knight has that split millisecond. You can feel it. It's enough to feel in Plunge. I know that's kind of restricted to the engine, but I hope they can bring it back a little bit. Blood Weapon, it's fine. I think it should try to line up better with Delirium. I wish it lined up a little bit better with Delirium, as the Blood Weapon's on 60 and Delirium's on 90. But I'm fine if it doesn't change. I mean, a change would be nice, but I don't think it's going to make or break the job in any way. It's not going to be that significant of a change. Okay, before I get to the last one I think does need changes, I'm going to go ahead and just talk about Delirium. Flood of Shadow is fine. Delirium is kind of Dark Knight's inner release. I think it's, in a way, more functional than inner release, even though inner release is stronger because you get direct hit crits. I think Delirium overall is fine, and I think its cooldown doesn't quite line up to other things, such as Living Shadow and Blood Weapon. I think if all these other DPS changes I had brought up aren't enough to make Dark Knight, competitive, because to be honest, I think Dark Knight, they use a 200 weapon. I think Dark Knight and Warrior should be doing more damage than Gunbreaker and Paladin, especially Paladin, because Paladin's a sword and shield. I think, Square likes to adhere to fantasy, but it's like, I think the big giant two-handed weapons should be doing a little bit more damage at the sacrifice of a little more survivability, but that's just my personal opinion. Again, it's entirely subjective. Again, it's my opinion, but you know, people will believe they want to believe, because apparently some people were fucking retarded enough to know to actually believe from my last video that I actually beat my dog. Come on, man, go kill yourself if you really think that. Anyway, Delirium. Sorry, got on a tangent there. I don't want it to be exactly like in a release. In a release gives you guaranteed direct hit crits. What would be nice is kind of to counter a little bit, not give us direct hit crits, but what if Delirium added like a shit ton of skill speed for a few seconds, so you can get more blood spillers in, but direct hit crits not a thing. So what if, I think Delirium, it would be really cool if they added skill speed. I think that would be really good. So that would be, I mean, I'm fine if they don't change it at all. I don't think it needs a huge change. I'm not upset about it. I like how it works, but that would be kind of a cool flavor thing to get. All of a sudden Dark Knight gets really fast with Delirium, and it lines up with the name of the fucking ability. But anyway, okay, last thing I want to talk about is Abyssal Drain. I don't like how they changed this. I think outside of Living Dead, this ability I think is the one that is the most shit outside of Living Dead and Dark Mind. Abyssal Drain, I don't understand why they gave it a minute cooldown. I mean, I guess I kind of do, because people were just spamming it in dungeons, and Dark Knight could literally on giant pack poles could not be killed because of how much it would heal them. I think that its cooldown just needs to be dropped. I would say give it a 30-second. Its cooldown should be cut in half, because yeah, now it's also part of our single target rotation, which is great, and it's off the GCD. But I think its cooldown is still too long, especially because its cure potency is only 200. I think that it either needs to have its cooldown cut in half, which would be the ideal solution in my opinion, or change to add an additional effect to where if Abyssal Drain hits 2 or less targets, its heal potency is like tripled. So you get like a 500 or 600 potency heal if it only hits 1 target. Then you can kind of save it and game it more in a boss situation where you're like, okay, I need an immediate heal now, and I don't have enough time to get from 1, 2, 3, okay, Blood Drinker, you know, I mean, Soul Eater, you know, you can't get there that quick. You're okay, Abyssal Drain. Okay, I got a little bit of HP back, and I helped out the healer a little bit. Anyway, these are the changes I think that would benefit Dark Knight the most without breaking the class. If I could just pick a handful of them, the biggest changes I think we need out of all the ones I mentioned. I mean, I'm pretty sure we're going to see some potency increases across the board. But if I had to just pick a couple changes that I absolutely thought needed to happen, is I would say Blackest Night should cost nothing, Living Shadow should cost MP and not blood gauge, and Salted Earth needs to be adjusted. Salted Earth and Abyssal Drain need to be adjusted. Their cooldowns are too long on these two abilities, and their potencies don't reflect their cooldown time ultimately. Anyway, guys, this is just me spouting off the top of my head and some thoughts I had after playing Dark Knight and beating the normal mode raid. Savage isn't out yet as of this video, but clearing both extreme modes many times on Dark Knight at this point. I think that these are the changes that could really bring Dark Knight's damage up and make it a little more of an even playing field. Again, like I'm not a huge proprietor of, hey, let's nerf everything. I'd much rather see classes get buffed than nerf, unless their damage is so retarded or something about it so broken that, hey, you need to be brought back. And I kind of find that normally when people rage in comment sections about, they get really pissed if I say something should be nerfed, which is kind of evidence that they know it needs to be nerfed, because they know it's way overperforming. But when your job you play is OP, you don't want it to be nerfed. But guys, it's part of the game, it's part of an MMO, so fucking get over it. I mean, I even had people in my video that was a predictions video, what I thought Square will probably do. most of what I said in that video wasn't even my opinion. It was, this is what I think is going to happen based off what I've seen them do in the past. And people were getting mad at me, but, you know, it's the internet. People are going to do what they do. Anyway, guys, this has been Raziel. Thank you so much for the support, for checking out this video. What are your thoughts? What are your comments on my changes? Do you have different ones in mind? Let me know. Also, the Twitch is up on screen now, so follow me on Twitch. I stream 3 to 4 days every week, and my schedule can be found in the About section and also printed on my Twitch page itself. I really appreciate all the support I've been getting, guys. Almost up to 5K subs now here on my YouTube channel. I really, really appreciate it. For those of you who watch my stuff and you like it, thank you. If you're new to the channel and you like my stuff, and you know, please subscribe, hit the alert bell, follow me on Twitch. If you saw my stuff and you don't like it, then don't watch anymore. You can go fuck yourself. I don't care. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for the support again. And as always, my friends, keep it real.